Hey, peace and blessings, everybody. It's your brother Osare, back with another one. Yeah, today we wanted to just go into a common topic. Um, but I think it goes with the material. I think it ties into the whole idea of relationship with self. This topic is, why do bad things happen to good people? Now, why do bad things happen to good people? Now, that's a common question and everything like that. So let's kind of get into this. If you're liking what you've been here, like and subscribe. You know what I mean? We're gonna try to keep pumping them out. Um, okay, so let's rephrase this a bit. So let's kind of like reword this. Okay, when we say so the common way of putting this would be, why do bad things happen to good people? Okay, so let's rephrase this. Why do people with a high moral code experience unfavorable situations if karma is real? All right, so that's one layer of our rephrasing. If karma is real, if what you reap, what you sow, is a real concept, which I personally understand it to be. You see what I'm saying? Um, and we'll get into that. If karma is a real thing, then why is it that good people, the people who should be building up the best karma, why do they suffer? Okay, so if we reap what we sow, then why is it that the people who sow the most favorable seeds still suffer? So really, the people with the good karma that do the most good and stuff like that, why do they still suffer? Why are they just like some mansion materializing out of thin air for them? You see what I'm saying? Um, or why don't they experience some sort of paradise on earth just based on their actions, if karma is just that, is the if the law of karma is just that much of a literal thing, right? Okay, now the short answer to that is, and we ain't gonna stick with the short answer, but the short answer to that is, good and evil are relative, right? Before we go any further, what do I mean when I say good and evil are relative? I'm not telling you that absolute, let's say like something on the level of doing some sort of ill will to a child or whatever the case may be. That's so extremely, universally, every no matter what race, no matter what group of people it is, ethnic group, whatever, everybody has children, so everybody can relate to that. So socially, that's deemed as something so extreme that it's considered a taboo or evil, which is, understandably so. Um, let's see here. But good and evil in a general sense are relative, barring things of that nature, atrocities, the people, hurting, doing harm to people, stuff like that, or whatever. But in general, good and evil are relative. What do I mean when I say that? If we're on two opposing teams or whatever, or two opposing armies or whatever, if you do something to one of my people, you're a villain on my side, and if I do something to one of your people, I'm a hero on my side and a villain on your side. So it's, in a lot of cases, a lot of the more mundane aspects, of good and evil, they're more relative to the perspective or the political affiliation or the social affiliation, whatever have you, of the particular group of people. But as we know in the real world, good and evil, um, none of us, how can I really say it? None of us in the real world of social interactions with people is definitive, can really afford to be definitively good, so called, and definitively evil, so called. You see what I'm saying? If you're definitively evil, so called, you're gonna wind up in a prison somewhere or dead. If you're definitively good, you could wind up dead, or severely used and abused, or what have you, or whatever. So it has to be a balance between the two. See what I'm saying? So it's more about doing what is appropriate, as it pertains to the situation or the circumstance or whatever have you. And as we've kind of went over in previous videos and everything like that, the most realistic position to take, that covers all your bases, would be more so to honor self. So what I'm basically saying is, it's not even about being good or evil. It's about honoring self. If you're honoring self, you'll be just enough of everything that you need to be. Because if you honor self, that means you honor everything you stand for. You honor your family, you honor your country, you honor your tribe, your ethnic group, whatever the case may be, and you have respect for self and you have respect for all human beings. So but it's a hierarchy in the sense that you're not going to let anyone do harm to anything you stand for on down hierarchically to your personal physical self. You see what I'm saying? So that would be more so more appropriate than, let's say, man, just be good, because a person can be externally good or whatever case may be to the world and neglect their self. You see what I'm saying? And still wind up in various precarious situations and still have a level of misery. Or a person can be selfish and neglect the world or whatever case may be and find themselves in a precarious situation as it pertains to their relationships with people and various other things or whatever. So there must be a balance in this. Now I'm always gonna add a bit of contrast, and we always gonna, I'm a fool with the bibliography, so we're gonna pull out something from the bibliography real quick. Gonna get into this one a little bit. Abikata. We've been on this tantric thing for a minute, so we getting Abikata, the magic tantric mystics and the magic of tantric mystics and warlocks. So with this is kind of going into it's an interesting thing because it's still in keeping with this oral tradition, because all of this tantric stuff, majority of it is based on an oral tradition and everything like that. And what he's basically talking about is there are no tantric schools or anything like that. What happens is a lot of let's say like castes or tribes or ethnic groups or what have you may trace their descendancy to a particular deity, and the cult of that particular deity is how they transmitted a lot of the tantric mysteries and things of that nature. Sound kind of similar to in ancient Egypt, how you have mystery schools or temples of deities that were schools. You see what I'm saying? So it kind of gives you that same mindset or what have you. So I just wanted to kind of contrast this. You see what I'm saying? This is Abhikara, The Magic of Tantric Mystics and Warlocks by Adinat M. Jayadir and Siddheshwari M. Jayadir. And I know I'm probably mispronouncing the names. Y'all forgive me on that. Okay, this is page 53, right? Sacred criminality, the law of karma and the divine fortune. So what they're about to get into, and we're gonna that's page 53. Basically what they're gonna get into is, anybody ever heard Trick Daddy had an album Book of Thugs. He says they're God for the thugs. Um, yeah, when we talked about Lord Shiva and everything like that, we've been kind of getting into that. With Shiva is best, but this book goes into the idea of the caste system, how you have untouchables at the bottom. Shout out to my elite people, my untouchables and stuff like that. Honestly, in my opinion, historically speaking, they're about the only other people on the planet that I know of historically that has the most similar struggle to black people in the diaspora, African Americans in the diaspora. They've suffered for centuries. You see what I'm saying? Under certain ideologies and things like that, similar to ourselves in the West. So I always kind of compare apples to apples. No disrespect to any other group of people, but let's say like Nazi Germany, that was about 10 years at best. So that ain't comparing to the diaspora. So, no disrespect to nobody else. And this ain't the victim Olympics, but I always kind of resonate with those people. But it talks about how you have the untouchables, and then you'll have subcasts, and it will get you even have criminal casts and stuff like that. And Lord Shiva is the god of the criminals. Now, so when you get into the idea of the criminals and everything like that, and subcasts that deal with criminality or whatever, they have a different perspective on criminality. You see what I'm saying? Because each caste has a dharma, each caste has a path, or whatever case may be, from this perspective. And we must not forget that the idea of caste in the whole Vedic concept that comes out of the same information that's on the temple of Seti One, the four races of men. That's how they arrive at the caste system and everything like that. But when we get into this, each caste has a dharma, or a path. A warrior has a path, a priest has a path, a merchant has a path. All these individuals have paths, and they all have various different levels or types of karma and stuff like that, as we'll see. So let's kind of get into that. And this is just to kind of like add a little bit of seasoning to this right and wrong and why the bad things happen to good people. Because I know a lot of us are, come from a Judeo-Christian background. A lot of our families are Judeo-Christian, and it's often interesting to see a contrast to that thought process, a God and the devil type thought process. Because in as you go into some of this information in this book or whatever, they talk about even when they do magic or whatever case may be. Let's say you may have a deity that causes disease, and then you'll have a deity that gives health. Well, one of them is not evil and the other one is good. If they wanted to enlist the service of or do something, a particular working or what have you, they would enlist both of those deities. The deity that causes disease, they would tell him to cause disease, and the deity that um, um, relinquishes health and everything like that, or gives health and everything like that, or they would tell him to give less health. You see what I'm saying? So the two energies will work together, as opposed to one of them being God and one of them being the devil. You see what I'm saying? And like we've kind of went into in some of this literature, as far as God and the devil is concerned, as far as the function, your functional day-to-day life, day-to-day experience, your ego is closer to the devil than any man on a hot sauce bottle. Ain't no dude with horns and hooves and stuff like that. You ain't gotta be afraid of nothing like that. That comes out of somebody's imagination. You can give me any image of any demon or any name of any demon or whatever, and we do the etymology on it, and when we do the see, that's a method. When we do the etymology on it, when we do the language that it comes from, because if you tell me about angels, angels are angelos or messengers, but at some point that has a date time stamp. So if you're telling me this angel did this, angels have a date time stamp. So at some point there were no angels. At some point you getting into deities as opposed to angels. So angels have a date time stamp. So if you're telling me about an angel, it comes from an actual deity or whatever. That deity comes from a culture, a language, a people, and everything like that. So when we really start doing our homework and breaking a lot of this stuff down, it's not what people think. The practical aspect of, devil comes from doppelganger or double. Your true self, what we talking about, the actual version of yourself that's basically your gateway to God or whatever the case may be, is in opposition to this isolationist version of yourself. That's the ego that gets you into all these crazy situations because you think you special. You see what I'm saying? The ego keep lying to you and tell you think you special. You see what I'm saying? So you can turn your back on this and disregard that or whatever the case may be, because you special and don't nobody understand you, and it's all about you. So that's the ego. You see what I'm saying? So that's more of that's closer to the devil than you can have, chop it up to these metaphors and stuff like that, like when Jesus was on the mountain and Satan tempted him and all that stuff like that. Honestly, that might as well be a metaphor for your ego tempting you on a daily. You see what I'm saying? Can you dig it? So let's get into this Abikata real quick. You know what I'm saying? We always like to add the contrast. You see what I'm saying? It makes for interesting conversation, so we kind of get somewhere, challenge ourselves. But okay, sacred criminality. You know, the law of karma and the divine fortune. This chapter will explain the viewpoint of the adepts from the criminal underworld of India on what is today called criminality by the official society and sin by many orthodox movements. For the adepts of other ways, the laws of karma work like this. If you if you broke the laws of the state and the official morality of the mainstream society, stole something, killed an enemy, lured your prey into a trap by deceit, then under the law of karma, later somebody will steal from you or your loved ones. Your health can be damaged. Harmony, peace, inspiration can leave you. For the adepts of a great many spiritual paths, bloodshed and war, fraud, thievery, blackmailing, and robbery are a violation of the natural way of lives prescribed for these adepts by the gods. For a great many many adepts of Bharava Kali Dharma. That's this path that they're talking about, the tantric path of magic and all that stuff like that. The case is just the opposite. If there are no friends, now listen to this. If there are no friends or family of yours among the rulers of a country, this is the government of strangers. If neither you nor your friends or family have passed any laws of the country, this law is foreign for you. If you don't violate the laws forced on you by strangers, if you obey a government of strangers, by that you acknowledge the divine sanctity of strangers' nature and the nothingness of your own nature, it means you defile your divine nature and curse your admin. So admin is, they talking about the soul and stuff like that. Thus, under the law of karma, you will devolve to animal incarnations. So after you commit the act of submission to strangers, somebody will steal from you or your loved ones. Now, you know, I ain't writing this. This is coming out of this, but honestly, um, being from America, what I'm saying, of an obvious lineage, you feel me? I can't help but to, that kind of like, touch a nerve or whatever case may be, because there's a history of movements that have been in opposition to a certain level of conformity in this society. There's been a struggle back and forth, so that's an interesting dialogue. You see what I'm saying? That was just had or whatever. Let's take a closer look. This is page 55. Let's take a closer look on how this mechanism works. What is theft? It is somebody taking someone else's property. What is somebody else's private property? It is the property that was created or taken by somebody who considers it to be theirs. Taking what the rich one calls their property and the law of the foreigner calls the rich one's property. The adept displays his godly qualities: wisdom, freedom, spiritual strength, dexterity, and valor. The most fortunate and worthy of people have such a good karma that it allows them to receive the learning and practice from the adepts. But the karma of many is not good enough to receive the learning and practice. The karma of much is such that the only situation where they can meet the adept is where the adept steals or takes away their money and property, or punish them for unworldly acts and words. So he talking like he acting like he Genghis Khan, you know what I'm saying? I'm the punishment of God. If you hadn't did such foul stuff, you know what I'm saying, I would not have descended upon you type thing. He's saying that had your karma been better, you would not have met me in a place of me stealing your stuff. You would have met me in a temple somewhere, and I would have taught you some sort of technique or something like that. I guess is what he's saying. Such situations through providing for maintenance of the adepts on the one hand and showing an example of how one shouldn't behave on the other hand also improves the karma of living beings. The worst possible situation of all is a situation of creatures so bad and sinful that their karma doesn't allow them to even be robbed by the adepts. So basically, when you get into some of the stuff that he's basically talking about in there, he's basically differentiating between the dharmas and how the karma changes. The karma for each individual changes with their dharma. Let's say, like, if this person is a criminal and this person is I don't know, a priest right here, and I know a lot of people, just humor me on this. If I pull a person's natal chart, I can tell whether they're gonna be a criminal. I can look at their chart and tell whether they're gonna probably have a stint in prison or something like that, or they're prone to certain behavior. I can tell whether a person is prone to be a priest or something like that. Their two natal charts will look totally different. So there is some sort of indicator of what a person will be. Well, the person who's destined to be the priest, if he steals, it'll add to his negative karma. The person who's destined to be a freaking criminal, if he steals, it actually benefits his karma because that's his path in life. And when he gets incarcerated for stealing, that's a test from the deities that are associated with his path. Yeah. So yeah. Long story short, I'm not um I'm not suggesting anybody subscribe to that. It's just an interesting contrast in perspective or what have you. In the end, um, my advice to anybody would be to, you know, to honor self. we don't really have a caste system like that over here in the West. We hit pretty much as it would be most conducive for our society and everything like that would to be to honor self. You would cover most of your bases and everything like that. The idea behind this is that you have people who are good people and everything like that, but but all of us have strengths and weaknesses and everything like that. All of us have things that we gravitate toward, and for better or for worse and everything. So that person may be good in one area but be lacking in another area, and that might account for their mishaps and the bad things so called that happens to them, or the bad experiences that happens to them. It's all about being balanced. It's not really so much about being bad or good, but it's also about honoring yourself and kind of knowing yourself, so you come to grips and be honest with your strengths, be honest about your strengths and weaknesses, honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses, so you know how to offset them or what have you. You know the situations not to put yourself in, so you don't wind up in these different these precarious situations and everything like that. Understanding that we're not just a monolithic type person or whatever case may be, like it's been said to me, like my astrology teacher, he would say, um, um, somebody say, well, I'm a Aries or I'm a Pisces. He'd be like, man, Aries is 30 degrees of the sky, son. Aries or Pisces is 30 degrees of the sky, homie. You ain't no Pisces. You know what I'm saying? So your sun might be in Pisces, but you're not a Pisces. So we're a gumbo of various different energies and influences and stuff like that. So it's more of a thing of being balanced instead of trying to be all good and all evil. And being balanced would entail the various things that you've attracted into your life or whatever case may be. If they're healthy and you can maintain them, or you seek to maintain them, seek to be balanced within those various things. That's about as good, or there ain't no devil looking over your shoulder. The devil is your ego. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So that's um yeah, that's really, just wanted to do a quick one for tonight. But basically what we were just doing, just contrasting, like I know, like from a Judeo-Christian perspective or background, what have you, the most common background in the West or what have you, it's a clear-cut thing where it's God and the devil, and it's like a more of a Ten Commandment type of deal, right or wrong. But then when you get into other cultures or whatever, the ideas of right and wrong can kind of get a little bit more complicated, because you may have a different social structure or different things, cultures and subcultures and things like that. So it's just an interesting thing to observe or what have you. But we can also see how the idea of honoring self, kind of, regardless of what your cultural orientation is, regardless of what your situation is, honoring self is always, kind of like the right down the middle path. So just want to kind of touch base with that. Touch base with y'all on that. Appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Leave your comments. Appreciate the love.